All right, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of From the Command Post, coming to you live once again here from the 1075 studios at the Training Academy. Today we decided to change it up a bit and reach out to an outside agency to talk about an event they ran. So we went big, reached out to the DC Fire Department, and today we are honored to have Battalion Chief Christopher Holmes and Sergeant Jonathan Grinder to talk about the plane and helicopter crash in the Potomac River on January 29th. Chief Holmes was the first arriving chief officer and the initial incident commander, so we're going to hear his story. But before we get started, the common reminders, if you are a chief officer and you're looking for COPDI credit, remember you do not need to sign into the chat. You need to fill out the form that's available on the COPDI Command Comp's website through the Training Academy. A couple episodes coming up that are worth mentioning. One was announced this morning via email, which is Wheeling the Rig, which will be happening on May 29th. Master Firefighter Collins and Chief Bush are going to be talking about the new tankers that are coming out into the fleet and also talk about some of the best practices for rural water supply operations. We're also going to develop a episode for new rookies coming out, not for rookies, but about rookies. So if you're a new captain and you haven't had a rookie before, this episode is going to talk about what the rookies are coming out to the field with and what you should expect to go through with them during their probationary period. Lastly, before I turn it over to Chief Masters, who will be moderating today, I will be in the background monitoring the YouTube chat. So if you have any questions for the chief or the sergeant, please put it in the chat. I can't promise that I'll get to it, depending on where we're at with episode time, but I'll try to get all of the questions as they come up. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Masters.
All right, so just echoing what Chief Blinkhorn said, certainly on behalf of Montgomery County Fire Department, we appreciate you guys taking the time to come over here and talk to us about this event, pretty significant one, probably one of those once-in-a-career type events. Montgomery County, we have dealt with some plane crashes, nothing of this magnitude. Handful of years ago or so, we had one across the street. And then a couple years ago, we had one into the power lines, both within close proximity where we're at today. But, nothing to the magnitude that you guys dealt with. So we're looking forward to hearing your story and getting into it. So I think, maybe a good place to start is just, you came to work that day, like most of us. The cool thing about this job is we really don't know what's going to be handed to us when we walk through the doors. And you guys had one handed to you that day. So maybe just start off by, how was the day going for you guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully somebody can get something out of this. So the day was, I believe, a Thursday.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think it was weird. It was probably a little before the dispatch of this run, or at least before we were notified of this run. We were in the office, and I was talking with Drew, Sergeant Griner here, and I was telling him that this is probably the first tour that we've had where we have not turned a run, and it's almost 8 at night. So, especially in our battalion, we are pretty busy. I think we probably run anywhere 5 or 6, maybe 10 or more calls a day. So for us to not have not turn the wheel, it was definitely unusual. So probably a few minutes after that, I noticed we have an iNet viewer from our dispatch center that's on our computers, and you could see on the board that a call came up, and I think it was categorized as a hazmat. And I open it up, I look at the notes. The notes were saying that a caller was outside, I believe, thought they heard an explosion and believed they saw something hit the water. So I thought that was very unusual. I told Drew, I said, hey, look at the computer. It's kind of weird. Knowing that the airports, their communications is dispatched along with our communications at the fireboat, that if there was an airplane crash, that the fireboat would probably know about it before any of our DC units would, because they get the live dispatch automatically from the tower.
Is that something they constantly monitor on a day-to-day basis?
Correct.
Gotcha.
So they not only do they monitor their marine channels, the channel 16 for marine emergencies, they also monitor the airports. So their historical call is that they will have aircraft that may not have the landing lights fully illuminated, or some type of medical emergency, or some type of operational mechanical emergency with the aircraft as they're coming in, that they'll be notified, and they'll get the boats out there in the water just in case something happens and there's a water event. So that evening, didn't know anything prior. So looking at the call screen, the call originated at Bowling Air Force Base, or on Bowling Air Force Base. That's where the caller was coming from. Went to Drew. I said, I'm gonna call the boat, see if anybody answers. If they do answer, we're kind of good, because they didn't get anything, no alert from the airport. So I called, no answer. Called right back, no answer. I said, all right, Drew, let's go. I said, I think something's happened. Might be an airplane crash. Went into the sitting room, because we do have a heavy rescue squad assigned at our station, Squad 3, and they have to get the boats together. So I went in the sitting room. I told the guys, I said, hey, I think we have an airplane into the water off of JBAB, Joint Base Bowling, Anacostia. I said, let's go. I said, I think we're going to go down to Captain's Cove, Capital Cove Marina, and launch from there. So they're like, all right. So we're getting things together. We're getting to the buggy. Start heading out. I think we get on to 295 South. While we're heading out, I called the Naval District of Washington, their dispatch center. Told them who I was, trying to see if they had any calls, if they were getting 911 calls, since it's on the base. Because they're the ones that are their fire department. Naval District of Washington handles JBAB, so they have a unit over there, a fire station over there. Called their dispatcher. She said she does not have anything on the board, nothing. I said, okay. I said, we're coming there. Can you please open the gates? We're coming in for a possible aircraft emergency, maybe middle span of the Potomac, off of JBAB, and if you can dispatch your units. She said, sure. Hung up with her. I think we were getting ready to turn on to Malcolm X off of 295, which is only about maybe a quarter of a mile to JBAB. And that's when DC Fire had enough information of where and what's going on, and dispatched it for an aircraft emergency, or at least an aircraft crash. As we got into the base, or onto the base, I called the fire chief directly on his cell phone, and let him know that we possibly had an aircraft emergency, or aircraft that had crashed. He let me know that I think he was in Alexandria. He was very nearby, and that he was going to be there momentarily. So he was en route, and got to the scene and just started to try to gather as much information as possible.
So at this point in the processing of all this, there was no 100% confirmation yet. This is all sort of on a hunch, just based off of some radio traffic.
Yep.
An additional question would be, you got, obviously the national airport, you got the military base. Do all of those jurisdictions come through DC 911, or is there a delay in receiving information based on where the calling party may be calling from? Or
That's a good question. So a lot of the 911 calls, even though they're on base, unless they call their dispatch center, the 911 call will transfer to OUC, Office of Unified Communications, for DC. Sometimes, depending on where you are, that phone call may hit a tower in Arlington, Alexandria, even Prince George's County, and then get filtered through that way. But I could see that at least this phone call went to our OUC, our dispatch for fire. As I mentioned, the Naval District of Washington has their own dispatch center, so I believe a caller can call directly to them. But if they do call 911, usually it goes to OUC.
Okay, so in terms of just referencing a little bit of time here, you hear the radio transmissions, you leave the firehouse, you drive to the Air Force Base. Still no confirmation of this being a confirmed event yet. What kind of time frame are we looking at before you got,
So an important thing to reference here is that we didn't have a confirmation yet. I think that the fireboat units that were operating on the water were operating on Marine Incident Channel 1. So I believe that they had confirmed with the water assets by that point that it was confirmed that we had a crash. We didn't know yet pulling into the base.
Right.
Gotcha.
So when we, that was the point of me calling the fireboat, because they're going to get they have Reagan's tower pipe through their speakers. So they're going to hear any type of event, crash. It's going to be from the tower. They'll hear that, even though we won't hear that because we don't have those capabilities in our speakers. So they heard it. That's why I called down there. So if they answer the phone, that means nothing has been said at Reagan, that we're good. If they don't answer the phone, then they're probably getting on the boats and getting on the water, because it's the middle of winter. It's cold. It's icy out. There's not too many responses that they would be on.
Sure.
But at least there would be a watchman there. But if something like that, everybody's gone. So nobody answered. It's time to go.
What's their current practice policy, or whatever you want to call it? So they hear this. Are they required to notify
Yeah. So they
you
go on.
or somebody that they're entering the water
Yeah,
to
so
investigate something?
Yeah, they go to channel our talk around channel 2 with the main dispatcher, not the dispatch channel, but our channel 2 talk around channel, and telecommunications what they have. Usually while they're doing that at the same time, the officer's on the phone with their special ops chief, letting them know we're going on an incident, we're going on, to investigate something. And Harbor Patrol's also in the same building as them, so they also know. So there's a lot of communications that goes out of what they're going on, where they're going to be operating, how many vessels are going out, how many people on board. So there is going out. As a matter of fact, when I remember when I did call the fire chief, he had his radio on scan, and he told me, he goes, hey, when he picked up the phone, he's like, hey, what's going on? I can hear Pugs, who was the fireboat captain that night. He goes, I can hear him asking, or giving information, but it's bits and pieces, and I'm not picking up what he's saying. So he goes, what's going on? And that's when I let him know. I said, they're en route to what I believe is an airplane crash. We're en route. I'm going to be sending a response here shortly. And they did. They, dropped the box and started the dispatcher units from DC. So, but the fireboat was already en route, already on the water and underway.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a good point to hear the dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
Units on the following local for an airplane crash. Detective is going to be Alpha 3. Alpha 3. Fireboat 2 came up and advising time of discrepancy exactly. The location is supposed to be near National Airport. False alarm. Engine 7, 13, 18, 15, and 3, trucks 10 and 7. Battalion 3, Battalion 2 Special Operations. Squads 3 and 1, Ambulance 13, AMR 86, Ambulance 6, Medic 3, Medic 21, Hazmat 1, Hazmat Support Unit, Foam Unit 1, TU2, Engine 24, carrying medical ambulance, Bus 1 and 2, Safety Township EMS 7, along with 503, respond for an aircraft crash, reportedly in the water. No state that they, so a spark or something fell in the water, believes an aircraft. They report to be near, they said, the National Airport. We were given 5 fireboats to the near Buzzard Point. We get to the location of 2121 First Street Southwest, Virginia, being notified.
All right, so you got your dispatch, you got your units coming. What was kind of going through your mind at this point?
Yeah. Well, first is accountability. I want to make sure that I kind of know what my resources are, and start accounting for those resources. Who's coming? Let me start writing that stuff down. So I think off of initial dispatch, I think we had close to 50 something units.
I assume that's a preloaded response package you guys already have in your CAD.
Correct. So an aircraft crash, you have your normal box alarm, 5 engines, 2 ladder trucks, heavy rescue, EMS supervisor, ambulance, medic unit, and 2 responding battalion chiefs. And then you have your crash response, which is going to be the twin agent unit, the foam units, or the same crash units that we sent to the White House for helicopter standbys. So, and then we also had it's a water event also. So now we have the fireboats. They have 2 heavy rescue squads coming with their boats, and they actually added another heavy rescue squad because that rescue squad had divers working that night. So we had all 3 heavy rescues in the city coming en route. So trying to make sure nobody falls through the gaps. Make sure that I have all my units listed. Who's going to be first due? Who's going to be first arriving? And hopefully getting a good size up. Is this going to be on the water? Is this going to be on land? Is it going to be both? Is it what's the best access? And just waiting and trying to get more information.
Now, based on where you were, are you thinking commercial airliner, or are you thinking small plane?
So I don't know the original. I believe we might have got updated that it was a helicopter.
Yeah, so one of the first reports that we got was helicopter. Then I believe another fireboat, or I believe it was Captain Puglisi or Pugs, had come over and said, this was right around the time, it was maybe a minute or 2 after we got on the scene, that there was a plane. So we got a helicopter, somebody reporting a helicopter, somebody reporting a plane. We're just trying to tie it all together. Like,
Sure.
Is this 2 units, or are we mistaking one for the other? I remember when we got on the scene, we had found the best spot to park because we saw the military MPs had their buggy beached up on the grass, over a hill that overlooks the water, and we're just kind of staring out. So I beached our buggy up there, and then the chief normally gives a size up on the operations channel, and I go over to our channel too, and I give a size up for our communications. I remember I couldn't really see. There was 1 or 2 fireboats out there at the time, and with the glare on the windshield, I couldn't really see with their lights. It was getting dark, and so I got out and looked, and then saw a wing sticking out of the water. I was like, well, this doesn't look like a helicopter. This looks like a plane, and then gave my return, and then came back to him and started to try to really just get information. Like, what is it?
Yeah, so I think we got a report of a helicopter, and I think I even went on, asked the fireboat, it's like, is this involving a helicopter? And he's like, I think I have an airplane wing, or I have an airplane wing out of the water, so it's definitely going to be a fuselage of an aircraft. And I think they started to encounter victims at that time. So from where we were on Joint Base Bowling just prior to Capitol Cove, which is the marina, and approximately across the river from the airport, from the runway, which I believe now is 33, that runs diagonal. And I would say the crash site was probably less than 200 yards from where we were.
Something like that.
Yeah, closer to the airport side, but still within DC, within the water and in DC. So, trying to get the information from our special ops chief, who is out there or getting ready to go out there on the boats to pretty much be the incident or the operations branch of the river group of all those marine assets, to give me who's out there. Are there mutual aid units out there? Are there boats from, Arlington, Fairfax, Alexandria, the airport? Let's start getting accountability. When we pulled up, I think there was 2, maybe 3 rescue helicopters in the area.
When we pulled up, but that quickly increased.
Yeah, I think all the way up to 5 at one time. So we usually, Park Police is tasked with being the overwatch for any aircraft in the area. Reached out to them. They do have our channel, our operations channel. They're up on our channel. I can hear them, see them, talk to them, I believe one or two times. And then there was some type of communications failure, unfortunately, where I can talk to them, they could hear me, but I could not hear them. Luckily, they had a representative who actually was their sergeant and commander of their unit right there at the buggy. He came to the scene and was able to relay from me directly to him to the aircraft, Eagle 1, I believe, or Eagle 2, and start to get these other aircraft in different spaces and working it out, so they can start doing a perimeter from the outside, using their FLIR, asking them to look and see do we have oil slick, do we have hazmats, do we have a fuel spill, do we have any survivors that may be away from the wreckage on flotation devices, away from the immediate area.
So you made a comment about mutual aid, and I know in Montgomery County, often we run normal calls on the river. It's not uncommon for Fairfax, Loudoun, even DC to receive the same call and already have, an assignment coming. Did you guys encounter any of that in terms of, mutual aid dispatching their own assignment to this because it happened to land in a different jurisdiction?
Yeah, so the Potomac, I believe it's called the Potomac River Rescue Assistance Agreement, I believe. And I'm not an expert on that document by any means, but my understanding of it is any incident that's dispatched in that section of the Potomac River on the water, any jurisdiction that touches it can send their own units undispatched, and they mark up on that Marine Incident Channel, and that whole response gets handled on that Marine Incident Channel. So by the time we had parked, probably 7 or 8 minutes after we had parked, because there was some stuff I was trying to do, some stuff he's trying to do, we could see the boats coming from a distance, and everybody's coming into the scene, trying to get to work, figuring out, what's going on. So we had quite a few of those units that we didn't have in our tracking.
We'll circle back to that because I got a question about that, but I'll get to it in a minute. So I think we have some audio of the initial update that you received. Maybe we can play that and we'll get caught up on what information you got back to the command post about, what was going on.
District Battalion 41.
Confirm. Helicopter in the water. I have Fireboat 3, airboats, airport, and Fireboat 2 searching for victims. We are at the crash site. Best location for Special Ops resources is going to be Capitol Cove Marina to start launching the inflatables.
All right. Battalion 3 to Fireboat. If you can let me know the type of helicopter, military or civilian commercial.
Looks more like a plane. Doesn't look like a helicopter because I got a wing sticking out the water. But it is broken in the water. I've got unknown victims. Can't find anybody right now. We're working. I'll get back to you.
All right, copy that. Battalion 3, I'm on the scene. I'll be on the across from the airport, Riverside, Correction, Bowling Air Force Side. I'll be establishing the Potomac River Command. Command to Special Ops. I'll let you report to Capitol Cove Marina. And if you want to set the rescue group up on the water, just let me know. We're got a command board out.
All right, copy. Yeah, we'll have to see what the ice condition is there.
Command to Eagle 1. Eagle 1, be advised, there's another helicopter in the area.
Eagle 1, I copy. Be advised, FAA tower advised two aircraft that collided.
Military base, how you got that for, you got multiple units going in multiple directions.
Eagle to command, you copy. This is two aircraft that collided per tower.
Command from Battalion 46.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have Engine 46 and myself on the shoreline over here on Fort McNair. Would you like us to come over on the JBAV side to assist?
Yeah, so we're going to be on the shoreline. We got units responding to the marina launch boats. Why don't you come meet me at the command post, and then we'll see if our resources are going to be needed over here, okay?
All right, so you got a couple updates there. You got an update from your fireboat, an update from the Eagle, both confirming, some type of plane in the water. What were your initial objectives or incident priorities at this point?
First is rescue. So I want to make sure I'm accounting for the guys that are out there, and are the rescues going to be made. The captain of the fireboat, Captain Puglisi, was really good at letting me know with that one breath that he's got pertinent information. Hey, here's who's out here with us. This is what we're doing. This is where we're at. This is what we got. And do I need any resources? No, we're working. All right, cool. And I think that's good for managers, whether you're a sergeant riding the whatever piece of apparatus that day, all the way up to captain, or even battalion chief as a manager of a division. This is where we're at. This is who's here. This is what we need. This is our progress. This is our actions. These are our needs. That can report. So basically, looking for the same thing out there on the water. And I'm sure Drew can add on to this. So when you listen to some of these audios, it's a few channels together. Some of those channels, it's not just one channel. It's quite a few different channels. Then we're all monitoring those channels, and they may seem back to back, but some of them are. There's a time delay in between. But when you play them back, there's no delay. And unfortunately, we could not hear the Eagle. We could see them transmitting because it would come up, but it'll come up with nothing. So I couldn't hear that there was two aircraft. That she talked to National Airport. She's talking to the tower, reporting two aircraft. Could not hear that.
How long was it before you got that information to the command post?
So, it probably 10 minutes. Right when I got out to give my size up, I got back in the buggy, talked to him for a second, and then I got back out. I was like, I need to get, my role in an incident of this size initially is to be intelligence. I need to find out more information, how many people are on this plane. So I called a friend of mine because I didn't know what channel the airport was on. So I called a friend of mine that I know works at the airport. He's a captain over there. I said, I need a phone number, not a radio channel. I need to actually talk to whoever is in charge over at the airport right now. And he answered, gave me the phone number. I called over there, talked to a chief. I have no clue what their name was. I said, I need an airframe and souls on board as soon as you have it. Here's the phone number, direct. Call us back when you have it. Then it took them a couple minutes to call us back. They didn't know what the second aircraft was, but they confirmed with us that it was a CRJ, some number, CRJ 700 maybe. I'm not sure on that. Definitely a CRJ. And that they unconfirmed how many souls they had on board. But as soon as they had that flight manifest, they would call us back and let us know. Then I think Chief Holmes had transmitted that on our channel that it was a CRJ. And luckily, we work with a bunch of people that are keyed in all the time, and a bunch of our guys were listening. And so I started getting text from guys that had looked up that plane on their phone and had sent me a screenshot of the size of it, what's the capacity of the plane. We still don't know if it's full, how many crew are on it, but at least we had a general number that could be
You got a maximum.
Yeah, we do have a maximum.
We knew it could be somewhere around 60 passengers on the plane. And so then we had something to start with to start gathering that information.
Did you feel at this point that you had adequate resources on the scene?
I guess I felt like I did not want to waste resources. So it's difficult when that scene is remote. That scene is out there in the water. Only a certain amount of units can get out there. Do I have enough fireboat and rescue boat resources out there? It's January. It's freezing cold. We do have some heavy icing conditions that in some areas. Capitol Cove Marina is a man-made marina that is kind of off of the main body of the Potomac, just north of Mulberry Point. And if you've ever been there, you know it can ice up because there's no tide to pull the ice out, and it's not really affected too much by the tide. So can the rescue boats, at least our land units, can they launch? Do I need to get resources over there to break up the ice? Who is out there from other surrounding jurisdictions? Like Drew said with the water rescue agreement, I know that hopefully Alexandria is going to be out there with their fireboat. The airport has a boat. Are they out there? I know they keep their boats on. I believe they have one boathouse and maybe some boats on a trailer. Are they able to launch? So he was able to give me that information, tell me, hey, who's out? This is the units that are out here. And I think my biggest concern is I didn't want to waste resources, because I still have to have it back in my mind. I have all 3 rescue squads here. I have 50-something units that are here. I need to make sure that I can address this incident, but I also have to make sure that grandma who calls and has a heart attack,
Right.
that I'm not depleting the resources out for regular 911 calls too.
Sure.
So,
I said I wanted to circle back to the mutual aid stuff. So based on that information that you have and the fact that there's multiple agencies, you have this agreement that allows people to basically self-dispatch. How did you get a handle on who was operating, and how did you navigate getting everybody on the same page, or at least on the same communication level?
well, I think for us it was pretty easy because the incident is in the District of Columbia. It's in Washington, D.C. So with that, we have a large response from the call, from the neighboring jurisdictions. We're going to have a large response. So we need to make sure that, our incident command is set up, and it's a unified command. So we had a unified command in one location. I believe the police chief, the fire chief were there. I mean, like really, really quickly, if not within the first few minutes of dispatch, the fire chief is there. That's very unlikely that you would have your executive fire chief on the scene, being able to take command quickly, so I can get into the operations mode that fast, especially at after hours on a Thursday night. So, and I believe the police chief was there also. So having that incident within the District of Columbia, knowing that we're looking across at the airport and we can see hundreds of emergency lights at the airport, knowing that we need to get a branch director over there on that side really quickly, and then start adding in those key components of the incident command system. Hey, we have a rescue group, which is kind of like a water rescue group. We got that set up. This is their supervisor. This is the assistant supervisor. These are the units as we're starting to plug and play, and we can add as new units, that may be coming and launching from Roach's Run or down south that may be coming to add to that resource. We can add that. We have to start looking at casualties. Where are these casualties going to go? So we have to make a casualty collection point. We need to make a casualty collection supervisor. We need to start having those resources for EMS, the treatment triage and transport supervisors, leaders, and groups starting to get combined together. So while this isn't a normal response, where we have a sheet that's going to be like, okay, we can go from here to here to here. We actually have to just go on this blank piece of paper, but it's kind of the same branches, groups, and divisions that we may have for just a normal incident. For us, we run a lot of shootings over in our area where there's multiple people shot. Very chaotic, very resource driven, and they're hard to manage right off the break because you have different agencies, different information. Is the scene safe? What's going on over here? We got reports of 2 people shot on this side, but it's almost no different than any other incident. So treatment, triage, and transport.
Yeah, and so going back to like the nuts and bolts of how everybody operates together, works together, I think relies so heavy on previous relationships that have been formed with these mutual aid agencies. At the time of an incident is not the time to be introduced to these people. And fortunately, Captain Puglisi, the folks at our fireboat, and all those jurisdictions around work together constantly. They're always training together. They're on the water together. I mean, the fireboat shares a pier with MPD. They essentially share 2 halves of the firehouse. One's MPD, one is the fire department, working with the harbor. So all of those units, while it may seem chaotic with this, Potomac River agreement that they're self-dispatching, they all know who they are. So when they get out on the water, they go, all right, well, to me, that's Steve on Alexandria's boat, right? I know Steve, and I know what Steve's capable of, and I know what their boat's capable of. Not us personally, but the folks out on the water. They all have that marine incident channel that they all used for all of their water operations. I think there's 5 channels on that talk group. So they're used to operating like this. So for them, it's just another day, obviously, a much bigger incident. Sure. But as far as interoperability, it's just another day of something that they're used to.
So you brought up a good point there. Has there been any kind of multi-jurisdictional pre-plan mock training type of event for something like this? I know we've done it for like Metro and stuff like that here. Have you guys ever done something like this
Yeah, we do. So we, as of last year, we've started to get with our neighboring jurisdictions, Montgomery County, PG County, the shift battalion chiefs that are working against the borders of those jurisdictions. We meet the chief that's also working with the border jurisdiction. So we met with, for us down in Anacostia, we met with, I believe it's their 3rd and 5th battalion chiefs, or 1st and 5th battalion chiefs in PG County. We went out to them. We met with them face to face, talked about strategies and tactics, say, hey, we get a fire on the border. What are we going to do? What is your response going to look like? Occasionally, we still go out to PG County for a, car accident. We might send a rescue squad and a chief out there because they have, things going on where we'll go out there and cut up a car. Or the incident that get dispatched to, maybe on Suitland Parkway, and is in the district. And they're already, cutting up a car or trying to extricate somebody, and we pull up like, what do you need? So we've been in their buggy, they've been in our buggy, and it's good to be able to have that relationship, to see somebody. And like Drew was saying, that day that when you pull up and you have an incident is not the day you want to meet your counterpart. Right. So we do have drills that we meet and greet, talk about certain issues, talk about things, strategies and tactics prior to the event. And I know through COG, the Council of Governments, I know that they also have different committees, Hazmat Committee, Tech Rescue Committee, where they also do, training, and everybody does meet and greet. They have the Fire Chiefs Committee. They all meet together to go over certain activities. But I think for us, we drill, since we have 2 military or 3 military bases in our area, in our first due area, and 2 military jurisdictions that each have their own fire department within our area. We train with them routinely. So we have the Army military district, and then we have the Naval District of Washington. 2 separate entities, 2 separate fire departments, 2 separate missions and goals, and but we all train together. So I'll talk to Chief Brewer, who's in charge of the Army fire department. Say, hey, you got any buildings that we can go train in? They're like, yeah, come on over. So we'll, go over there and train. We'll bring them over and say, hey, you got different SCBAs. Let's surprise the guys. Let's do a RIT drill and see if we can marry up our SCBAs and see how, if guy goes down, how we can help each other. Same thing with NDW, with the Military District of Washington, with the Navy guys. It's because they have a resource that we may need. But when the bell rings, that's not the time to try to mend those bridges.
Absolutely. So the accountability piece, you talked about, getting a handle on who's operating, starting to branch out, different entities of the incident. How long you think that took you to, kind of build out your command platform, so to speak?
So in that first 2 hours of the incident, right, Chief Holmes was so busy with the radio, right, that I was the one that ran that command sheet. It probably took, I'd say, 15 minutes to go through our list from our MDT of who do we have, listening to the radio, right? Because in 15 minutes seems like a really long time until you have all those units. But you got to remember that more radio channels are now being built out. We have a casualty collection point channel. We have channel 2. We have a staging channel. Then we had a command channel get built. Now we have Mic 1. So I'm wearing 3 or 4 radios. Wow. And luckily, big shout out to Naval District of Washington, Chief Randy Hopkins and Captain Mike Humphrey from Fort McNair. They showed up. We saw them in the first 15 minutes of the incident, and commandeered both of them. Said, hey, you two right now, you're in the buggy. And those guys were absolute aces. There was no way with that many units that we would have been able to handle what we had all night long for as long as we had it. And having those two, being able to divvy some stuff up to them, give them radios. We carry a radio cache in our buggy. So saying, hey, this is the compartment they're in. There's the batteries. Here's the channels we're on. Take some of this off of us. And then, so 15 minutes seems like a long time, but it's pretty quick when you have all of that chaos happening.
Yeah, so, in specifically in Montgomery County, when we have a working incident, our communication center will give us what we call a 10-minute IDR, and then every 10 minutes thereafter. And there's certainly times where, 10 minutes from dispatch, you're just showing up as the command officer. You don't really have a grasp on what's going on just yet. So I can only imagine something of this magnitude. You got a lot of moving parts. You got a lot of just stuff going on. And I'm thinking in my head, if somebody said, hey, what's your 10-minute IDR? I'm going to probably say, I don't know yet,
Yeah.
Check with me at the 20-minute one. I might have an answer for you,
Right. Yeah. So I think for us, we don't even do it. We have a 10-minute. We do 10-minute, 20-minute, but we don't ask at that first 10 minutes because that's when we're handing out assignments. So that's when we do our accountability. I know where Engine 15 is at that 10-minute mark because they just arrived on the scene and I gave them an assignment and they acknowledged. And since they acknowledged, now I've accounted for them. So we start our accountability check at 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
Because our first 10-minute mark is going to be
another difference is our second command officer, whether it be career or volunteer, they're to report to the command post. Now the difference is we don't have battalion aides here, right? It's just us until somebody else shows up. And on big incidents, we may have multiple command officers, but it's not until, say, a third one shows up where we can start assigning, other things. I know just from my experience, we did a ride along with you guys last month. Your second command officer goes to the fire floor. Mm-hmm. Are you allowed to deviate from that in a situation like this where, as you spoke, you got a lot of stuff going on? It would be helpful to have, maybe that command officer come, to the command post versus going to an operational position?
Well, before it was Drew is really going to hammer this down, but before he starts this, because I just want to say I can't understand how jurisdictions these days in a metropolitan area do not have a administrative aide or an aide to the chief. The first thing that we teach the public is public safety, that we need you guys to be safe so you don't have to meet us. And part of that safety is we don't tell the public to text and drive and to do these certain things, but we expect our battalion chiefs to drive down the street and operate a tablet with a piece of paper and a cell phone and talk on the radio. It's kind of contradicting to the message that we want to relay. So the aides, their position is paramount for us, just for that safety standpoint, that he can focus on driving. I can focus on the task of the resources and units there, because a lot of those units get there before our arrival.
So you can basically start accounting for units immediately.
As soon as it drops. So now let him continue.
It's good, because it's actually on my list of questions of, we are starting to at least discuss and dabble a little bit with battalion aides, with the use of some light duty personnel, just to kind of, see if it would be a good fit for us and what that program may look like in the future. So maybe you can speak to what your role is as a battalion aide, even on this type of incident.
So do you want me to start from like a day-to-day basis and move into the incident, or do you want to just go with the incident?
I don't want to totally get off topic,
Okay.
but if you want to spend a minute or two just real quick, what your day looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tie more into, this incident.
So I, at the start of a day, I'm responsible for staffing the battalion. So that comes off the chief's plate. I'm responsible for coordinating all of the training for what's going on in the battalion, communications with the deputy's office of who's out of service for what, where people are going, officers that want to call and ask questions to the chief about, a decision that they're going to make or something that they're going to do, all gets filtered through the aide first before the chief deals with it. When we get to operationally, on the way to an incident, especially in our battalion, we have, it's so busy. A lot of our units are clearing other runs as a box is being dropped. So they're calling on the channel, wanting to come on the run and bidding, right? So the chief is trying to manage the bidding, manage who it is. I'm trying to call on channel 2 to let them know, remove this engine, add this engine, and then get to the run. On this incident in particular, like I said before, my main focus in the beginning is intelligence. I need accurate information as quick as possible. So I manage that. I then manage the command sheet of what we had. And then normally on a run, the chief will run a command sheet, and then I'll run a parallel command sheet with him, so that if there's a mayday, if there's a major problem, one of us can break off and handle some other part of operations and have an accurate account of where we are, who we have, and what our goals are. And the other one can handle the mayday until we get another chief or however that's going to break out. On this incident, luckily we had those two, the chief from NDW and the captain from McNair, and I was able to look back at him and say, hey, I need you to run a parallel command sheet. We have way too many units calling on the radio. I'm going to miss something. And, God forbid I sneeze fart at the same time and I ruin this command sheet. We're lost, right? We lose it all then. So to be able to have somebody else that's also running that.
I'll pause you for 1 second there. Maybe this question's directed at you. This is a hypothetical. You don't have those other chief officers responding. It's just you and the other battalion chief. Would you consider calling 4 more chief officers to manage an incident like this?
Absolutely, yeah. So luckily, our special ops chief was able to be like the rescue group supervisor. But I'm going to still need our safety chief was dispatched on this too. So I was able to use him to look at areas that I can't see. Like, is it safe enough to launch boats? Should I be putting inflatable boats out there, or are they going over ice? Like, I can start branching out certain part of the operational needs that we have to some of these other chiefs. So for an incident like this, Yeah, we got the executive staff coming. We have the deputy fire chief of operations. He's there. He's going to be setting up, or he's going to be working with now that I'm going to be operations, he's going to be working with the incident command system, start turning that incident command into like an incident support team.
Gotcha.
So as more chiefs come from off duty, how are they going to start plugging and playing into this? We know this is going to be long term. These guys are going to be working on long duration planning. They're going to be planning for the next operational period. So we kind of switch from switch into the IMT mode of an incident management team. But these guys need to make sure that this unified command in all of its elements, all of its parts are all up and running. The stakeholders, whether they're fire and emergency, whether they're federal government, whether they're police or law enforcement, whether they're NTSB starting their investigation, they all have needs. They all have wants, and they need to be heard too. And let's start getting these guys as slices of pizza in a pizza box and putting them together so we can get this unified command up and running. So making sure those branch directors are in place, making sure that we have a strong unified command, which I think for this incident, it was within minutes that unified command was initiated. Some of the shareholders and stakeholders were starting to come in, put in place, and then start to build in, and then senior executive staff staffing those positions, being there like really quickly, and not even having to worry about it on my end because I had chief officers arriving to handle that part above me, so I can focus on operations.
Gotcha. Did you want to finish anything about your involvement from the aid perspective?
No, I mean, I think that kind of encapsulates it. Just having an extra set of eyes for the chief, maybe a different perspective or a different point of view. Like, I think all of our chiefs and aides have a very good working relationship. I know we do, right? I think my first day in the buggy, the chief said, "Hey, this isn't chief and sergeant. This is Drew and Chris, right? We are one and the same. If you see something, say it. Make it happen. Like, we are a team getting through this together." And I think that's super important. And for you guys and other places that don't have an aide, I don't know how you can have that many eyes to have enough situational awareness to safely get the job done that you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is tough sometimes. So, all right, so you're into this incident, you got your command structure built out. What additional resources were requested after you got a good handle on what was going on?
You want to talk about the big boat? Or?
No, you can talk about it.
So, not that, but we never actually called for it. I believe our PIO, Noah Gray, was able to get one of the big dinner cruise ships that they're docked right next to the fireboat. And again, having those relationships is paramount. And that relationship ended up being a huge win for us. I didn't know they were coming. I looked up and I see this giant dinner cruise ship coming down the river, and I'm thinking, this is a terrible time for dinner cruise. Like this, I don't know what is happening here. And then we got the word that it was there for us. And the crew and staff, I don't know what company runs them, they were amazing.
What was your intention to use them as?
So it ended up being
patients or?
No, well, by then I think we knew that we weren't going to have any survivors. But then to have a mobile or a floating staging unit, a place to put our river branch that's warm and dry, looking out over the incident, that's a couple of stories over it, looking out.
Rehab area for our
rehab
divers.
area for our divers, for our people that are on the water. And
they even cooked.
Yeah, they had whatever leftover dinner they had, put that in the ovens for us. The crew was super worried about our guys, what our mental state was, what our physical state was. And, it's a dinner cruise ship. It's really nice. It's got nice, appointments on it.
Sure.
And they didn't seem to mind that we had divers coming on that were covered in avgas and oil, in dry suits, dripping all over the carpet. This is a tomorrow problem. Right now, we're here for you guys. And it ended up being a giant asset for us on the water.
Yeah.
So, you run these calls, whether it be a fire or anything really. The guys want to work. right? They want to do what they do best. What kind of in a conditions like this? I know it was really cold out, icy water. What kind of work cycles were you looking at in terms of committing personnel before you rotated them into like a rehab?
Yeah. So, I think Drew and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago when you kind of have that tight knit of a circle of your personnel that's going in and out, of work, and you guys, Montgomery County, being a USAR team, you guys are one of the 28 FEMA teams, top of the line. You guys go out to some pretty horrific deployments. It's kind of like a deployment like that that first 12, 24, maybe even 72 hours, you're going to be out there tip of the spear trying to get as much work in, because that's when the rescues are going to be made. So it's no different than this, where you're going to have your guys, especially your highly trained or specialized guys, special ops guys, are going to be out there. They want to be the tip of the spear. But as a manager, you have to make sure that your branch director, the guys that are watching them, they're also tip of the spear. They want to get out there and work. You got to make sure that circle, you can start adding to it. So it not only helps that this person's not getting hit on this rotation immediately, 4 guys, bang, 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 bang. It's going to now be 6 guys, but it also helps during that next rotational period that now you have fresher guys getting into the mix. They already know what the operation is. They already know what we're doing, what the objective is at that time. Instead of changing crews, and now they kind of have to start over to be like, I don't know what they were doing. They can kind of run with the baton and say, this is what we were doing. We got 2 new divers, 3 new divers coming into the rotation. Whether there were FBI, I think we had we had a bunch of divers come from Baltimore City.
Baltimore, yep.
Yeah, that were there. So getting those guys into the rotation, but making sure that we're watching our men. We don't want to fizzle our guys out.
Right.
And that's not just physically. That's also mentally. That was a very catastrophic incident, crash. To the victims, very catastrophic. So we definitely don't want these guys to be mentally or physically burned out, but also knowing that this is what they train for. This is what they need to do and what they want to do and what they're trained to do, to let them do it at the best of their ability. So
you brought up the mental health piece of this. This being a extremely significant call at a lot of levels, a lot of responders involved in this. Correct me if I'm wrong, no survivors?
No.
Right, so dealing with a lot of tragedy here. How did you guys navigate the mental health piece for the
I'll let Drew
responders
talk about that. He's one of our...
Yeah, so I'm on the peer support team, and our fire chief did a good job recognizing very early on that we needed to get peer support mobilized, get them out here, and start doing what we can. So I believe that night when we were still in the buggy, we had our peer support coordinator, Dan Brong, walking around, checking on people, making sure people are all right. I believe by the morning time we had, don't quote me on the number, but I believe around 15 or 20 peers that had come in from home, a bunch of them sent to the training academy to set that up as a mobile point, and then sent them out to the key firehouses where we had divers, where our heavy rescue squads are. We had divers, people operating on the water, to start whatever we can do right now, right? And with that being said, most everybody came off the water. This was at the tail end of a shift, and then you just worked your tail off all night. So Most people are just dead to the world. Like, I just need to sleep. With that, the department set up an incident management team for the mental health aspect of this. They were able to call on support from Prince George's County. Their team and their coordinator, I forget his name, he did a ton of work for us, and the international, and was able to fly in peer support members from across the country, put them up in a hotel, and then set up kind of a wellness center for 4 days, I believe is what it was. The fire chief, all of the operations chiefs allowed all of our units on duty, off duty, come as a crew, come as an individual. They allowed everyone out of service time to come, talk to those peers. We sent peers down to the fireboat every day because they can't just leave when they want. But at that wellness center, we had resources set up. We had some informational pamphlets to give out and just kind of start working on that very beginning piece, right? This wasn't intended to be a long-term care at this wellness center. It was intended like, hey, these are some of the signs and symptoms. This is what has happened in other big events, but was able to mobilize that. And we got a ton of help from outside partners for that beginning push.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, a lot of these incidents aren't going to, or a lot of the issues that we see in the fire service with our members with either behavioral health or post-traumatic stress syndrome, they're not going to come immediately.
Sure.
It's going to be over a period of time. So understanding that it may be months, days, weeks, maybe years, but I know in our battalion, myself and one of our members of one of the captains, we actually went out on our days off to go see a lot of the guys in the battalion. Just like, hey, next couple of days, keep your calendar clear. We're just going to drive around, start meeting these guys, at where they're comfortable. They're at their homes, checking on them, getting with their significant others. Hey, listen, this isn't going to be an acute. This may be a long duration, thing that you have to keep an eye on them. But here's my personal cell phone number. Just keep an eye on them. Let us know. You see changes, just let us know. So it's something that you got to do for your guys, and it's not anything that's going to be a quick, hey, for the next couple of weeks or the next couple of tours, I'm going to look at these guys and make sure they're all right. It may be years that you're going to have to look after these guys.
Absolutely, and that support from executive staff wasn't just short term. There's plans that are ongoing right now. I believe that the fire chief opened up 48 hours of leave for everybody that responded to any operational phase of the incident, of admin leave. Like, hey, if you have a day that you need a break, right, this is your opportunity. Was able to do that, and now the department with the union, with peer support, is working on some long-term plans of how we're going to address the needs of our members in the future.
That's awesome. So talk to us about challenges that you faced as the incident commander in the initial 10, 20 minutes of the incident. I know you said something about some of your common launch points might have been iced over, so getting access to the river. Any other challenges that popped up as you're trying to wrap your hands around this incident that you had to navigate through?
Trying to find the location first. What the resources are out there, who's coming. I think Drew was really good at letting me, being my guardrails to say, hey, have you thought about this? I mean, I think within the first maybe 10, 15 minutes, we got over 5,000 feet of boom in the city and responding into the city from, Indian Head Fire Department?
Yeah, Indian Head was bringing some. I believe there were some units in Virginia that were bringing harbor boom up.
Yeah, just for the hazmat component, what, and we would just keep asking, what are we missing? What are we missing? What haven't we thought of? So.
And, not only just between him and I, but with the two officers that we had from the other jurisdictions, with them, we knew that our dispatch center was going to be overwhelmed. We knew that our fire operations center was going to be working their tails off, trying to get members in, recalling people, incident management team set up, right? What's this next operational phase going to look like? So having them in the back and being able to say, hey, who do you have or who do you know that has boats of this size? All right, well, then they're going on their cell phones calling individual county communication centers. Hey, we need harbor boom. We need boats, right? And then being able to have someone that's in the know with what we know, right? Like we can call a communication center and say, hey, we need 4 airboats. But, like in middle school, when you play that communication game and you whisper something into somebody's ear and they whisper it down the line, what I mean as an airboat is, like a boat for swamp people. It's got a big fan in the back, and that's what drives it. By the time it gets 3 counties away of airboat, I have 3 inflatable boats that show up. They're filled with air, right? That could be a problem, right? So being able to have somebody especially in that very initial point, call it was a challenge that we were able to overcome because we had the help that we had, and was able to call and specifically say, we need boats of this size that are able to do this kind of work. We need personnel that are qualified to this level. Start heading them this way.
Yeah. A prime example is the Army Corps of Engineers have 2 big boats that they collect trash and navigational hazards up and down the Potomac. They just happened to be going by the command post, going upriver, staying far away from the incident site, and it was like, hey, they're going back to quarters. I don't know how, but somehow we need to get in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers and have them break ice on their way back to quarters, because that's where, on their way is where our casualty collection point was. Have them break ice on their way back, because they're heading that way anyway. And if they can just break ice on that opposite side, that'd be great. And I don't know who called, but I think it was one of the guys in the back that was able to make that connection quick. Call them. They're like, "Yep, we got you," and they stayed there and broke ice for us. And just things like that just make things a lot easier.
I know another at least challenge consideration. It ended up not being a challenge, but a little later on, we're like, well, man, what's next? What's next? We're having that talk, and what about the hazmat in this, right? And then being able to, quick on your feet thinking, and then going to, we've been fortunate to go to a bunch of outside training where you get to network with people from all around the country that have faced all kinds of different challenges. And then it was through some of those networks and listen to stories from other people who thought, man, I wonder if a helicopter, if their FLIR can pick up a sheen on the water so that we can start to map out how far downriver this fuel spill's going, where this debris pile is going to end. And if we can calculate where, from the time it happened to where it is now, we can maybe get a good idea of where this is going to end up by first light. Because we knew if harbor boom was going to be pulled, nobody was going to do that at night. Every boat that was capable of doing it was already in the operation. And if we had boats that come up, at least my assumption was trying to pull harbor boom in a potential debris field at night on an icy river is probably a recipe to get somebody hurt. So the Park Police was able to get up, check that out for us, tell us how far it was going. And then I think we scheduled a flight for the captain of our hazmat, Captain Jubila, with Park Police at first light to get him up in the air to see how far this is going so that we can get these resources that we've called up overnight into play. And then I think ultimately the Coast Guard had decided that the amount of fuel that was on the plane and the helicopter, that most of it was going to burn off by morning so that we weren't looking at a hazmat at the scale that we thought it could have potentially been.
Sure. You had made a comment earlier in the discussion that you were waiting for a phone call to come back with the manifest, how many souls were on board. How long into the incident before you received that information?
Probably, those first minutes or so hectic. I want to say it was probably no more than 8 minutes after I hung up the phone that they had called back, that MY had called back and gave us at least what was on the commercial flight. And then it was, because I think the information coming from the military had to get cleared through a bunch of channels in order for us to find out how many souls were on the Black Hawk.
Right. I think that was the only one we didn't really know was how many people were on that Black Hawk. Mm-hmm. But the commercial aircraft, we knew exactly how many crew, how many passengers, and the total amount. So
where do you think you were at in the incident when you knew what you had going on, you knew how many potential victims you had, you knew what your resources were, and you had a good grasp on, basically managing the incident and what your scope could potentially be as terms of patients?
I would probably say that was probably within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. 10, 15, I'd no more than 20.
Yeah.
But.
So if I'm the fire chief coming into this and I come to you and I say, hey, it's been 20 minutes, give me an incident update, you had a solid grasp of what was going on at that point.
Correct. Who my players were, where they were at, what they were doing, and if there was any needs or outstanding needs. I think we addressed all those pretty quickly.
That seems pretty fast to me. I mean, I've never run one of these, but Yeah, it seems like that information and a good grasp of the incident happened, pretty quickly. So it's pretty awesome.
I mean, I think most of that gets chalked up to the folks that we work with, the information coming from the water. Like, I don't know.
We talk a lot about the push-pull communication, and it's so important, for the company officers to be relaying good, concise, accurate information to the command post, which in turn limits the amount of questions that we have to ask. Side piece of that, you get a little bit better confidence that, the crews that are working are engaged in, managing that part. It definitely, helps tremendously.
Absolutely.
You got that good communication coming into the command post and coming out. I think we have some documents of your command charts, how you accounted for units. Maybe we can show those, as we kind of close this up. I'll let you guys speak to what we're looking at here. In Montgomery County, we have, command charts that we use. Not to say that we wouldn't go to simple pen and paper for something, big scale. But, I'll let you guys speak to this.
Well, I can't see it from here, but I will say that we also have, command charts.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the day, you're looking at an incident that is involving a rescue and a mass casualty, hazmat, and in a crash. So we all have tact sheets for all those. I think our biggest issue our challenge was that it was so many units. The locations were spread out. We had a lot of branch directors and senior staff in areas that were doing things that we wanted to account for, and then filter down what their needs were. But it just for us, it just made it a lot easier to write it out and to make sure that we didn't miss anything, and not just do it one time, but do it multiple times. I had mine, he had his, the two guys in the back had theirs. Everything mirrored. That if something happened,
That's awesome. Everybody's on the same page.
yeah, nothing would fall through the cracks.
And I think, a tactical worksheet is great, and we use them for 99.999% of our incidents. I think, at least for me, when you have an incident of that scale with that many units, hunting around the tactical worksheet of where you're going to put a unit so that it's in its box, it's just not feasible, right? Being able to map it out on a sheet of paper the way you see it in your mind. So when the chief comes to me and says, hey, I need 3 boats from staging and I need 2 engines and we're going to pull these ones out, I can very quickly go to where I know my staging is, pull my units out, put them where they need to be, take those other units out, put them in rehab, and move like that. Just trying to hunt and peck on a tactical worksheet, it'd have to be as long as this table.
Sure.
To have boxes big enough to fit everybody
Is
in.
that common practice in D.C. where the aide and the chief are both
Yes.
tracking units?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, you never know when you're gonna have a Mayday.
Sure.
Where if I do have to switch channels and start working with just the Mayday units, he will have the operational units until another chief gets there, so I can focus on this Mayday. So if we're not both tracking all those units, somebody can get lost.
Couple more questions as we kind of come to the conclusion of this. Your emergency operations center, I think it's in the top floor in 16 engine or something.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that they're engaged in this quickly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who you communicate with as the aide, or how much of this kind
yes.
of behind the scenes stuff does a component like that handle?
So yes, any information that the fire operations center deems pertinent, they're going to call me, because they know the chief is handling units on the radio, and then I'll relay stuff to the chief. Or if I have questions about the run, I'll call the fire operations center direct. So on a normal incident, that's who we're going to coordinate Red Cross through. That's who we're going to coordinate getting the mayor's command center to a fire, or to get Department of Buildings out to an incident. And then they have direct access to all the CAD notes. They can see how many callers have called in. They can see what units are coming. They can hear units on multiple channels. If you went in there's about 150 TV screens that all have data up of how many available units are all across the city, and so that we're constantly in communication with them on these runs. And they called multiple times throughout the night to give us an update of like, hey, we sent somebody to the casualty collection point, but now they're out of service mechanical. We switched them out. You now have this unit. We didn't want to tie up radio traffic, or to get a text from them. You know, Captain Polish texted me, hey, switch this unit and that unit. They're coming now, not this other unit. So it's super, super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, ambulance 13 is out of service mechanical at this intersection. We got it. We got a tow truck en route to them. The shop knows your unit is now this. Or, you know, they're putting the notes like, you know, all the hydrants in the area are in service. Blue banded. It's like just certain things like that you get information that is so valuable that you don't even realize.
Right.
And all that comes from the Fire Operations Center. And if we have a question, you know, we have our own TAC channel that we can go direct with them and ask that question, or for a specialized resource. Hey, this is what I need. Gotcha.
Yeah, we get a morning brief from them every morning on the morning operations brief. They tell us about, you know, major events going on in the city, you know, First Amendment gatherings, that kind of stuff. They run a very accurate list of blighted and abandoned buildings. So if one of those addresses comes up, they are the first ones, not only in the notes section of our MDT, letting us know that this building has been listed as blighted or abandoned or out of service hydrants in the area. They also call on the phone to make sure that we have that correct information.
Nice, nice. Chief Blinkhorn, any questions from the chat yet?
Yeah, I have a few here. The first one's going to be, how long were you in your, this one's actually from me, how long were you in your vehicle with Commander, what you call operations? I understand you had the two other officers from the other jurisdictions behind you. So how long were you in the vehicle with those two before it transferred to a unified command post, I guess a bigger command post, and what did that look like?
Well, we have a command unit that showed up. So the senior executive staff went to the command unit. So they got there pretty quick and set up that unified command to leave us the operational section.
I think probably 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, that we stayed in that buggy. So I think dispatch was like 8 something at night.
Yeah, almost 9 o'clock at night, and then I think we left about 6-ish in the morning, maybe a little before or a little after 6.
Yeah, because they transferred the, I guess, the command center over to the airport. So we stopped by the airport to make sure that they had all the information they needed before, you know, we cleared.
Gotcha.
So you were in the you were in your vehicle with operations for about 8 hours. Can you tell us who was in the command post with the unified command?
Yeah, so we were there
What
for probably
agencies?
14 hours, 15 hours. But I know our fire chief, our assistant, both of our assistant fire chiefs, countless deputies. So, and like I said, I know Chief Donnelly got there within minutes after dispatch. I don't know where he set his, you know, his command up, but you know, our command unit is staffed, so they got there pretty quickly when the deputy got there. So coming from downtown 16 engine to southeast probably took them 7 or 8 minutes. So
yeah, so I think some of those agencies, you know, the base commander for the base that we were on, I believe NTSB was there, FBI, the police chief, I believe Metro Transit, multiple other federal partners. I know our fire chief spoke at the congressional fire chiefs thing. I think he had talked to the White House Situation Room 4 or 5 times that night, giving them intelligence updates that, I mean, I don't know what they talked about, but I would assume saying that, like, this isn't a terrorist attack. This is,
Right.
yeah. And then I know our fire chief, it's kind of a halfway funny thing. Sergeant Skulnick, great guy, awesome officer. It was his first day as a sergeant. And Chief Donnelly snagged him and said, "You're going to work with me." And then, so he kept a running list, which, you know, heads up move, I would have never thought of it, to make sure we write down a name and a contact number and a current list of every single person that they had come in contact with that night. But I would assume it's probably well over 25, 30 people that they had come through.
Yes, so two more and along those lines. With all the different agencies that were involved, one, did you run into any communications issues? And two, how did you assign all these different agencies to different talk groups? What was your thought process behind that?
Well, I think the initial talk groups that we had a staging channel, we had our operations channel. We also had the mic channels, which the boats are operating on. All that is within our normal kind of everyday operations that we would have. So that wasn't unusual. We knew that we contacted the airport and I believe Fairfax via their tactical channels to get information of what resources that they're sending. So all that's kind of is a normal day for us to be able to reach outside of our borders sometimes or to talk to agencies. So I don't think that was a big issue for us.
No, so most of our communications bulletin dictates what channels go on where, because we were on 0 Alpha 3 meant that our staging channel, like in any time in any zone, if you're on a 3 channel, there's always that same channel that corresponds as a staging channel. So units that are responding, I believe it's 6. Units that responded to the incident then responded on 6 while listening to 3, but they did their communications on the staging channel. So they're talking to me,
Right.
not tying up our channels. All of the COG partners that came, I don't believe we had anybody outside of the COG that came with their own radios. So all of those units knew
Switch over.
what channels to be on. There were some communications problems with Mike 1 and some of the farther reaching jurisdictions in the COG. But luckily our radio cache, some of our personnel experts, I think Sergeant Ragucci, who was a radio wizard, was actually right next to the buggy. So I was able to roll down the window and go, hey, come here. These units are having problems. And within a couple of minutes, he was able to say, all right, tell them to go to DC Riz, whatever channel. And as soon as that happened, all of a sudden we had two-way communication with the Eagle again. We had two-way communication with the Charles County assets again. So that we were able to solve all that pretty quickly, or actually they were able to solve all that for us very quickly.
Nice.
The last one I have is, can you talk about how your fireboat or fireboats are staffed? And you talked about requesting specific type of boats to this call, and we touched on ice, but was that, I'm assuming that was because many of the boats that normally operate on the river couldn't because of the ice?
Correct. So ice, not only ice, but it was part of the incident was very shallow water too. So it was a very shallow area, I believe, where the part of the aircraft was. So dealing with ice, the shallowness, we knew that we were going to need, the fan boat or the air boats to get over top of the ice. And the other question is, our fireboat is staffed with 5 personnel. They have their own station. We have the John Glenn, which is an icebreaker. Unfortunately, it was out of service at the shipyard during this event. But it's our big boat. I believe it's near 68, 70 feet long. They're staffed with a pilot and a marine engineer, an assistant marine engineer. And then we have a complement of quick attack boats, fireboats. So we have a jet boat. We have an aluminum 2-engine regular propulsion outboard fireboat, and several inflatable boats that are housed there at the fireboat. So depending on the call that they get will depend on what resource that they go out with. Usually we're going out with Fireboat 2, which is a jet drive boat, quick response fireboat, enclosed, kind of has a command center in there, and one of the quick rescue boats. And we'll also send the big fireboat. It's got I think it only goes 20 knots, but it can act as a command center when it gets on scene.
Gotcha. All right. So as we close this up, one more question. I think it's fair to say that we're probably our own worst critics. So if they threw this incident at you again, anything that you guys would do differently, or pretty happy with how things went?
Call in sick.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this, and I think for the first maybe 5 or 6 days, we were just beating our heads against the wall. Like, what did we miss? Like, what should we have done differently? What could have we done different? Could have been done differently. Was there any gaps? What did we miss? And we really couldn't come up with anything. I'm sure there might be some callers or somebody come in and, send me an email. But we felt that the major targets or checkpoints we kind of hit, even from, the hazmat side to, I think if there was one thing that I would say that I wish I could have done better was for the guys out in the field that were out there on the water, especially our managers that were out there. Hours felt like minutes to them. So trying to get an accountability check, at 20 minutes, for them, I'm pretty sure it felt like I was asking them every 5 minutes. But they weren't realizing because they were so busy that it's been 20 minutes. And now that 20 minutes, I kind of like let slide, and now it's been 30 minutes. Like, hey, what's your accountability? He's like, you just called me. I'm like, no, I didn't. It's just that they're in the frame of mind of working. So addressing that a little bit better, I think, I think I had one as something that I need to work on. Like, how do I get information from somebody without being a burden to them while they're working?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. As I said before, I know like-minded people, they all want to work.
Yeah.
And they want to keep working until the job's done, and sometimes that's tough to continually engage them, and oftentimes need to pull them away from the task just to say, look, you've been going at this a lot longer than you think. You need to take a little rest. So I understand what you're saying. I will say that personally, I find it extremely impressive that you guys had a handle on this, and that 10 minutes, you had a strong understanding of what the incident was and your priorities and your objectives, resources, accountability. That's a lot of stuff, to navigate and sort through, and to have your hands wrapped around that in a relatively quick period of time is pretty impressive. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
For what it's worth. But, as we said earlier, I really do appreciate you guys coming out and sharing this incident with us. I think there's a lot of takeaways from this. Definitely, in my opinion, probably a one in a career type of situation. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.